published, 1333 EDT, the 18th of May 2018, updated, 1906 EDT, the 18th of May 2018. A Boeing 737 plane has crashed moments after taking off. From Havana's Jose Marti International Airport, just one day after more than a third of its fleet were grounded over safety concerns. At least 100 are dead after the internal Cubana aviation flight, which was carrying 113 passengers and crew, including 5 children, crashed into a yucca field near a high school, in the Santiago de Las Vegas neighborhood, on Friday. Just 4 survivors were recovered and taken to hospital in critical condition, according to Cuban media. One has since died in hospital. Photos of the scene show fire crews attempting to put out the still smoking wreckage of the aircraft which was devastated in the crash. Debris was left scattered across the surrounding area after the explosion. Scroll down for video. A Boeing 737 plane has crashed moments after taking off from Havana's Jose Marti International Airport, just one day after more than a third of its fleet were grounded over safety concerns. Pictured is the wreckage. Fire crews and emergency services were on the scene to put out the fire still smoldering in the ashes of the plane. A man stands in the airport terminal, watching the plume of thick black smoke rising from the crash flight. GMJ 0972 had taken off from Havana's Jose Marti International Airport, headed for the city of Holguin, in eastern Cuba, when it crashed in the Santiago de Las Vegas neighborhood. A shocking video of the aftermath shows a victim being stretchered away from the scene while a large crowd of volunteers and emergency responders attended the scene. Hospitals in the capital, including the General Calixto Garcia University Hospital, are bracing themselves for the arrival of the survivors, Cuban state media Granma reports. Flight DMJ 0972, which was headed for the city of Holguin, in eastern Cuba, was carrying 104 passengers and 9 crew when it crashed at 12:08 p.m. local time. Wreckage was strewn over the area, 12 miles south of Havana, and blackened parts of the fuselage were visible. We heard an explosion and then saw a big cloud of smoke go up. Gilberto Menendez, who runs a restaurant near the crash site in the agricultural area of Boyeros, told Reuters. Carlos Alberto Martinez, the director of Havana's Calixto Garcia Hospital, told Reuters that 4 victims of the accident had been brought there. 1 had died and 3 others, all women, were in a serious condition, he said. She is alive but very burnt and swollen, said a distressed relative of one of the survivors at the hospital. The flight was leased by airline Cubana from a small Mexican airline called Damajor Global, Cuban state media said. Holguin has some of the island's most pristine beaches, and attracts tourists. Cubana declined to comment. A damage representative in Mexico said, "We are gathering what we can to give correct information." The nationality of those on board was not immediately clear, although the crew were Mexican. Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel, Center, arrives at the site of the accident. The newly sworn-in president, spoke with emergency crews and volunteers at the scene of the tragedy. A team of emergency personnel, in multiple ambulances, arrived at the scene. Local media reports that just 3 survivors have been found so far. Ambulances and fire trucks line the nearby street near there. to crash zone after the Boeing 737 went down at around midday local time. The cause of the crash is not clear. Witnesses at the airport terminal reported seeing a huge fireball followed by a giant plume of smoke rising in the distance. Cuba's newly sworn-in President Miguel Díaz-Canel arrived at the scene shortly after the crash. The news is not very promising. It seems that there is a high number of victims, he told AFP. Cuba's national airline, Cubana de Aviación, has been plagued with safety issues in recent years due to its aging fleet, and only yesterday, more than a third of its fleet were officially grounded. The company, which is a fleet of 16 with an average age of almost 10 years old, received an order from the Cuban National Aviation Authority to ground its 6 and 158 aircraft due to serious technical and safety issues including cracks and mechanical issues, according to Airline Geeks. Rescue and search workers on the site where the airliner with more than 100 passengers plummeted into a yucca field just after takeoff from the international airport in Havana, Cuba. Dozens of rescue and search workers on the site where the Cuban airliner with 104 passengers plummeted into a yucca field. A thick plume of smoke, rising from the wreckage, pictured, could be seen from the nearby airport terminal. Emergency personnel worked at the site of the accident after the Boeing 737 operated by Cubana de Aviación crashed near the international airport. Most of the Ukrainian-built aircraft had already been grounded as the airline struggled to get new parts. Today's crash reportedly involved Cubana's Boeing 737, leased from there Mexican company. Damage, Cuban news agency Prensa Latina said. Its crew were also Mexican. Boeing airplanes tweeted, "We are aware of news reports out of Cuba and are closely monitoring the situation." Cubana added two turboprop ATR-72-500s, provided by South African Salento Aviation, in 2017. The last fatal crash in Cuba was in 2017, the Aviation Safety Network said. It was a military flight that killed all 8 personnel aboard. In 2010, a commercial Aero-Caribbean plane crashed in central Cuba. All 68 people on board were killed. The latest available information on Cuba from UN Safety Aviation Agency ICAO, dating back to 2008, ranks it above their global average, though that preceded the latest 3 crashes. Multiple casualties are reported, although numbers are not yet clear. Pictured is a Cubana de Aviation at the international terminal of the José Marti Airport in Havana in 2016.